What's up, YouTube? It's Convicts Perspective. It's your big homie Rojo.
What's good with this Flacco? So in today's discussion, we're going to be breaking down the first part of the 14 bonds. And in order for the listeners to understand what the 14 bonds purpose is, these are the bylaws of the Norteno movement. These are what give them the guidance and directions to make decisions in the absence of a true authority, which would be a Nuestra Familia member. These bonds were given basically as a sense of direction, a way to govern themselves, to make decisions, to establish mainlines, and to ensure due process for every Northern Norteño. So the first bond is number one. Now, bear in mind, these have basically they've all been similar, but they all have the same concept. Before we used to use the term hermanos or bros or, en soldados or not, but we're just going to go with the basics. Bond number one. All Norteños will strive for a better education, respect, and social status of equality. This includes and goes beyond acquiring any and all incentives and privileges entitled to an inmate. And with this bylaw scripture, right, which is what you're going to hear from me a lot, right? This bylaw scripture is basically the guidance for a Norteño entering the system. And the whole objective of this one is to enter prison and leave a better man than when you came in. As you see, the first thing is all Norteños. This means this is each and every one's responsibility as a Norteño. These are basically the standard that's expected of you, to strive for better education. And that's the first part of it, which means there's no limitation to one's educational capacity. Therefore, we're always striving to elevate our level of standards behind the wall, whether it be starting to learn some type of trade. Some brothers came in, they couldn't even read or write. Just advancing in all different areas. And therefore, we're always trying to elevate our respect. And the respect is, we don't ask for respect, we demand it. And that's because we give it in return. Therefore, as Norteños behind the wall, we're supposed to carry ourselves to a certain standard behind the wall. Always have a professional mannerism. There's a saying behind the wall that we used to use. Other group segments, best is what is our average. And those are the standards that we try to live by on a daily basis. And the third thing, as far as in the first portion of the scripture, is social status of equality, which means we want to be looked at equally socially within all other groups behind the wall. We don't want to look like some proletarian people or some peasants. We want to have those same professional standards, and we want to elevate that equally behind the walls, whether it means we have what we have coming behind the walls, be it card tables, be it handball walls, and we want to be able to communicate with people on that public relation level on the same equal level, to where we're not demeaning ourselves or we're not looking inferior to no one behind the walls. And so, see, this first portion of the bond is basically, it's about elevating your standards. You know what I'm saying? And as it says in the second part, this includes any privileges and incentives entitled to an inmate. This means we're not just looking for the things that we have coming behind the wall, like being able to have a vocational trade, a pay number. We're trying to take and learn skills that we can learn in there and hopefully apply it to the street. You know what I'm saying? So within this bylaw scripture, it's very rare that you see someone deemed no good, right? But it could be used as far as a disciplinary reason. Like, say, if you have an individual who's disrespecting other races, or he's, not showering, not conducting himself in accordance to our high expectations, that's basically going to be a bylaw infraction. And, eventually, if you keep on not acting in accordance to what we expect from you, you could be deemed just basically on bond number one. Very rare that it happens. But if you're interacting like a JCAT, you're a threat to our people. So that will be used with this bylaw scripture and others. So in a nutshell, this bond is basically for every Northerner behind the wall Norteño to have a goal to be a better man than when they come through.
I'd like to elaborate on the last part, which is social status of equality, man. That, the way I was taught is that also means, the things that we're not getting that we should be entitled to behind the walls, we have to fight for that, be it through way of 602s, through way of writs of habeas corpus, through whatever legal means and whatever means necessary. If we feel like we're being, held down, victimized, or not given our share, we're going to pursue that. And, whether it's through combat with other groups or the administration, in violence or on paper. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they get to this single vision where, we got to have our own phone and we got to have our own weights. No, we got to have more than that. You know what I mean? We got to continue pushing the level of things that we get from these people. Man, in these holes and stuff, you're in there, man, you don't see a phone. Like in the shoe, man, I've been in the shoe 4 times. I used the phone one time, and that was to fight a 602 that I had filed in Quinton. So I used the phone to finish my process. I didn't get to call my family or anything like that. So all this social status and stuff, like these inmates are on the main line, they get to use the phone because you say we're in a gang, we can't. I mean, come on, you know? So we have to keep in mind that these kind of things have no boundaries. You know, we got to keep pushing for more and more and more until the end.
So here we're going to go into bond number 2. All Norteños will take a strong positive attitude towards aiding all those of Latin descent, as well as any other minority group worthy of our cause. It is our duty to work together in harmony and unite those forces in alliance with us to reach our set goals. And this is a basic bylaw scripture. What it is, you know, it's about us establishing relationships with those who could be worthy to our cause. And this clearly states that we have no alliances, no allies, but we have those that we will work with in alliance with. And minority group, okay, what that could be is Italianos, it could be Paisas, it could be Nicaraguans, it could be anybody that's of Latin descent. And the whole thing, part of that is because that is from our bloodlines. But at the same time, as far as what we envision is, we have enough enemies with the Sureños, the AB and the MA. So our focal point is, if you have these Paisas coming in or someone who's of Latin descent, we don't want to push them away. We want them to be, hopefully, they don't have to be technically beneficial towards us, but if we can at least neutralize them to where they're not in opposition to our goals and not leaning one way or the other, we're winning, you know. And other minority groups really of our cause, right? Our cause is supposed to be about the betterment of the people. The struggle is to secure, educate, and establish in light of all oppositions that we face on a daily basis. So we want to find like-minded individuals, like a lot of BGF had that same revolutionary goal against the system, being oppressed, because as Norteños behind the wall, I've said this many times, I think we faced more oppression than any of these other groups just by the way we operated. We couldn't conduct any dealings with canines. We had to, have such a high standard within our own people that sometimes I used to think it kind of brought us down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So this bond in a nutshell is about uniting those that with common goals and aims and people that can be embraced to the cause. Well, at least the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, an example of that would be like our relationship with the others. Like, we never get into it with the others. Has it happened? Probably. Is it common? Not at all. You know, and the same with the Native American brothers. You know, we don't get into it with them. You know, so basically what it is like trying to help out those that, you know, we don't want against us and we'd rather have for us. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what goal we're pursuing, it's better to have friends than enemies. You know what I mean? So everything that we do for all these other groups, man, whether it be like, man, just teaching them basic things, helping them out with some story, you know, because, man, there's been times where I've been in there with some Tongans and Samoans, man, I made sure they ate and stuff. You know what I mean? Just little things like that, man. In the future, you know, they might be like, oh, you know, we're going to take off on them northern dudes. Are you down to assist us? And they're like, oh, no, man, them dudes are cool. You know what I'm saying? So we take it like that, man. We try to be as cool as we could be to everyone who's not against us.
As you see, we keep on saying us, so we're breaking down how these bonds and bylaws are supposed to be applied. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't necessarily, you know, support any of this stuff. This is just for the viewers to understand what it's like to be, you know, in this, you know, lifestyle as a northerner or above, you know, whatever. There's a lot of things that go along with it, man. And if you look at it and listen to it, everything's really, really positive. And we said this before, man, they reel you in with a lot of positivity, but is the meaning behind that what it truly is? And we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Bond number 3. All Norteños will do everything in its reach and capabilities to acquire a mainline status. For these are the grounds we must secure for our fellow Norteños and all those who live for the cause to have a strong establishment to go to without the threat or interference of the opposition. Now, this bylaw scripture in a nutshell is about us acquiring a mainline status. I mean, whether we get validated or we catch a pegada or we're involved in a melee, you know, we're not useful being in the hole. We're not useful being in the shoe. So what this is trying to tell you is, back in the days, right, when you used to hit a mainline, Rojo could tell you this personally, you know, he would tell them he was another. And that was a common practice for certain Northerners to have sleepers out there in the yard that were others, but were actually worthy to the cause. Some were Norteños or some were sympathizers. And so with this bond, what it's trying to teach, you know, the souls behind the wall is, is to do all within your capabilities to acquire that status, that mainline status once you lose it. You know, there's going to be times where we're going to have to put in work. We're going to have to do a hit. You know, we may get validated or face validation. We have to do all within our capabilities to get back out there in the mainline, whether it be contest through a 602, whether it be contest in a 115 infraction, whatever it may be.
Habeas corpus, all that.
You know, and it can also be going into ICC, CC, right? It doesn't mean that we have to go out there and maintain our mainline status, but the whole purpose is to get out there and handle your business. You know, if you're in a southern Pinta, right, where the Sureños had a stronghold back in the days, and you had access to go out to the mainline and handle your business, knowing damn well you're going to be going to war and maybe get stabbed, and there's no homeboys out there, it still would be your job and duty to try to get out there to that mainline, or to see if there's any homeboys out there. Because, like I said before, our whole purpose is to get on the yard, plant our flag to where we can have a safe place to have our gente do their time and enjoy the luxuries and privileges and incentives that we have behind the wall. And as you notice, as we go through bond 1, 2, 3, all these bonds are placed in a sequence because they all work together to form a whole direction. You know, first about the bettering yourself and your standards. Second, about establishing alliances with those worthy to your cause. 3, about getting out to the main lines, being active, and doing what you need to do on a daily basis. So that's bond 3 in a nutshell. It's pretty simplified, you know. We're going to go into bond number 4. In order to continue in our struggle with far less obstacles, there shall be no tolerance created by internal confrontation, individualism, or homeboy favoritism. No Norteño will spread false rumors or negative gossip about a fellow Norteño. And at no time will a Norteño attempt to take advantage of or disrespect a fellow Norteño's ruca or familia. To do so will result in serious repercussions.
Yeah, what we got there, man, is basically just, man, it's giving you an outline on how to, you know, live by the golden rule with your people. You know, you don't want to disrespect nobody. You're not supposed to be trying to get at their hind. Like say you and your celly talk, and his old lady looks good. You see her picture. Hey, can you know, go check on my family? When you get out and you go try to holler at his woman or nothing, man, that'll get you messed off real quick. I mean, that's one of the quickest ways to get 86 is by disrespecting, first of all, your brother, doing stuff like that, and as well as his family. You know, there's never been no tolerance for that, man. And unfortunately, you know, people have got away with it in the past where, man, I don't know whether it's been homeboy favoritism. I don't know whether it's because, you know, the person who did it was, you know, too important financially or something, but it happens, man. And this is trying to teach you from the very beginning, you know, as a new person in the yard, learning these regulations and these expectations, that, you know, you can't be disrespecting people. You know, you gotta, you know, you don't even disrespect the enemy unless it's time to handle business, and you disrespect them through your actions. You know how we get down. You don't mess over your brother, man. You conduct yourself on a high level. You know, you got to have integrity. You know, we practice professionalism, and, you know, this is one of the core concepts of that. You know, if you can't respect others, you don't respect yourself, first of all. You know, it's not a hard thing to learn, and it'll keep you out of a lot of wrecks.
See, this right here, this bylaw scripture, I will tell people this over and over again. It's probably the number one offender of why an individual gets deemed no good. Because in one way or another, by your actions, whether you're endangering the gente or a cowardice act, you're conducting an individualist act. Internal confrontation is basically causing unnecessary waves. If you're going to become a headache, right, argue, contest, or go against the grain, or cause any issues within the household, that's an internal confrontation. Individualism. Some people think, okay, you know, I used to school a lot. I mean, this is one area I'm familiar with. I schooled a lot of these Northerners and Norteños, and some of you that are still active, you know, wherever you got your school, you probably got it through the lines of someone that I was working with. Individualism, right? It doesn't mean, okay, he got 10 soups, he got a TV, he got all this, he has to share. No, that's not individualism. I mean, that is individualism, but not in the aspect of negativity within the struggle. Individualism is this, to where you're taking advantage of your position. You know what I'm saying? The household has maybe some type of tobacco coming in, or, you know, alcohol, drugs, or whatever they're getting in, and they're reaping the profits of it for themselves and not giving anything back to the household. Individualism is when a situation arises, right? And instead of you filing a proper report, taking accountability, you twist and lie about the situation. That's individualism. Now, the next part is homeboy favoritism, right? That doesn't mean, okay, this homeboy is giving this person over here this because, and someone's supposed to get mad about that. You may be on a line where you have a better relationship with a homeboy, and there's only so much that can go around. If you don't have a rapport with that homeboy, and he favors this homeboy more than you and wants to give him a soup, you can't be pissed off about that. That's up to you to build that relationship and that rapport. Homeboy favoritism is when, say, you're in an authority position, right, within a household, or you're asked to write a report about a situation, and instead of putting all the facts out there, you basically lie to cover their behind. Homeboy favoritism means someone comes into the household and they may not be qualified to have a position, but yet they decide to give a position to someone that's from their hood or someone they like. That's homeboy favoritism. Homeboy favoritism is this: someone has an issue of conflict, and it may be a petty issue that could savage everyone's career. It could be diffused, but to where one homeboy who's in an authority position decides to make a decision and deem that person no good. Those are how those situations work. See, in any situation, like I said, you can look at all the violations and bylaw scriptures. I mean, this is anytime I file charges or deem someone no good, which I always try not to, no matter what it may be, there is some type of infraction in a bond for, always off top. So we're going to go into the next bylaw scripture, which is bond number 5. All Nortenos will acknowledge and respect the authority in charge at all times. No Nortenos will feel inferior to one who holds rank or position, nor will a Norteño holding rank or position of some type feel superior over his fellow Norteños because of his rank or status. Now, this bylaw scripture is one I used to school people all the time because there was a lot of misconceptions behind it. First of all Norteños will acknowledge and respect the authority in charge. And I always used to teach them, your authority is your bylaws. In order for you to know your due process rights and the directions and protect yourself, know your bonds. But the second aspect I used to tell people, especially in environments where there was no NF members who are technically your true authority. This is how Northerners and Norteños are schooled. That in absence of a familiano not being processed, your authority is your bonds, the due process rights of what you're supposed to applicate. And so when you have someone who's in an authority position at a set facility, you want the most qualified and competent individual running that establishment. One who is seasoned in these bonds and can make those proper decisions. Therefore, when you get to a facility, right, it's not your responsibility to question every action he does. Because there's times, right, where you could be at a set facility, and I used to school people this. There could be 50 ways to go about establishing a household, 50 directions you want to go. But whoever that one is in that authority position, he's going to decide. And as long as it is not in a bylaw infraction, and it is within our set guidelines, it has to be acknowledged and respected. Because if you come in thinking you could just speak your mind and disturb things, all it's going to do is cause dissension, And that goes to the second part of this number 5, which means inferior to one who holds rank or position. Now, I had a couple young homeboys, right, when I was schooling them on the 6 yard and even in Corcoran shoe, and they said, well, I'm not supposed to feel inferior. And I said, no, hold up. Look at the beginning of this bond. It says you will acknowledge and respect the authority in charge. What it means by no man shall feel inferior, it means just because you have to follow orders and acknowledge the authority in charge, don't feel less of a man. Don't feel that you have to voice your opinion and challenge everything, because if you do, you're going to get deemed no good for not acknowledging the authority in charge. So that's a lot of misconceptions that I used to see with young Northerners when they were first being given these bonds. They weren't being given the proper schooling. So they would see this bond, they say, oh, no man will feel inferior. Oh, I can say whatever I want to say. No, if I tell you to shut up, get in line, noise check that, and I'm the authority in charge, you're going to listen to what I say.
Yeah, basically, it's just like, don't take it personal because you don't have a position. There's a person in that position for a reason. Just because whatever's going on is up to him and he has the final say, it's not personal. That's just the way the household's established. That person has earned that position, and you might get that position too one day. But as a man, that man is not better than you in any form or fashion. He just has a duty to do, and he's going to do it the best he can. And you got to remember too, if you don't agree with it, your opinion, man, it doesn't really matter. There's a chain of command established for a reason, and it's going to be followed. But if he's in the wrong and you're not, man, you gotta bite your tongue, and eventually he will be held accountable.
So that's the whole purpose of why understanding your bylaws, you understand your rights, and that goes back to the last part of this bond, which is, at no time will an feel superior, be he rank or status, right? Which basically is saying, just because you're in authority in charge, it's a responsibility. It doesn't mean that you're the ultimate authority, because I used to tell individuals, if you get to a facility like Avenal or Susanville, and you're in an authority position, and you have to run investigations, and you have to make a decision, because not every time you're going to have a seat president, especially on these main lines back then. You have to be able to make that decision and justify it. And see, we all have to answer to a higher authority. So when people are making these decisions, you just don't deem someone no good, have them whacked, and don't think you're not going to have to answer for it. All that's going to have to be processed, because just because you're holding an authority position does not mean that you're an ultimate authority.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen so many times where, people get pulled as a bro, or they leave out of the hole, and they're not validated or whatnot, and they go back to main lines, and they end up going out there puffing out their chest and being disrespectful instead of being, a leader. You know what I mean? They go out there and try to bully you into following instruction instead of trying to assist you in being better in what you want to be, and being a better member of the household and striving for the right reasons, etc. A lot of people end up getting deemed no good for misuse of authority, and that's exactly what that bond's saying. You're not superior because you hold a position. You are simply doing a job. That's just like when you're at work. You have a manager. He's doing a job. That doesn't make him a better person than you, more powerful person than you. He just has different responsibilities than you. And a lot of these cats, man, over the years, I've seen, as soon as they go to the hole and get a little education, just as a Norteno, they come back out to the main line and they walk a little different. Bro, same thing. And man, I have seen a lot of NF brothers, bro, that, man, they think that they're God. They're better than everybody else because they've achieved a certain position, and I couldn't stand that, man. I've been around a lot of them dudes, man. Joining a group or getting a better position doesn't make you anything more than an assistant to the cause. You know what I mean? You're an assistant. You're doing a specific duty. You're not out there because your poop doesn't stink, so to speak. You're not better than nobody.
Yeah, with that, I think we're going to end this segment of the first 5 bonds. We're going to do the 6 through 10, and then we're going to do the 11 through 14. And let's be clear here. As we stated, these bonds, they all sound good. It's not that there's nothing negative in them, because it's a way to secure yourself. It's just the way that they've been applied throughout the years. You get the wrong individuals that get put in these positions or making these decisions, or there is favoritism. You know what I mean? There's not all these situations that occur where someone's being deemed no good. I mean,
they happen every day.
They happen every day where stuff gets misconstrued, or someone doesn't follow the proper research and investigation. Someone makes a decision, and like I said, we don't promote this gang lifestyle, but at the same time, we're trying to share listeners and let them understand it from our perspective and how we used to live it, and in some sense, the proper way of how it's supposed to be. But how it's supposed to be is not how it always is.
Yeah, if you follow these bonds the way that they're intended, they're a great thing, and that's just like any part of our education. But when they're not used and they're abused and they're used for personal gain, that's when they become a problem. But we'll get back to you on the rest of these bonds, YouTube, and you guys have a good day. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, por favor.